Hey guys, tonight we step into the frozen boots of a Viking Berserker. You're standing knee-deep in snow somewhere near modern-day Trondheim, Norway, circa 870 AD. Your breath fogs the air in ragged gasps, each one sharper than the last. The wind isn't just cold, it's a thief, stealing warmth from your bones with every gust. You're not just a Viking raider dreaming of English silver. You're training to become a berserker, a human storm wrapped in bearskin. They whisper that you'll feel no pain, no fear, but they don't mention the frost gnawing your toes before you even lift an axe. Reality check? You'd likely lose fingers to cold before ever reaching a battlefield. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Where's everyone listening from tonight? Drop your location and local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The cold isn't weather here, it's a living thing. It creeps under your woolen vadmal tunic stiffened with lanolin and, well, let's just say Viking era laundry techniques weren't exactly spring fresh. That smell? Wet sheep, wood smoke, and yesterday's fish stew simmering in a cauldron over a fire that never quite defeats the chill. You're 17, maybe 18. Farm work carved your arms thick as oak branches. But this cold? It laughs at muscle. Your toes are numb despite 3 layers of foot wraps. One misstep hauling firewood, and you won't feel the axe nick your boot until you see the blood staining the snow. Mainstream fact: Scandinavia's Little Ice Age meant average winters plunge to 30 Dufour C 22 Dufour F. Frostbite wasn't an if, it was a when. You glance at your father's hands, snuggles swollen like tree roots, 2 fingers missing from a logging accident years ago. That's your inheritance. A broken body long before old age. Forget Hollywood meat halls glittering with gold. Your world is dirt floors, drafty longhouses, and the constant labor of not starving. Tonight's stew? Boiled barley, a few turnips, and a scrawny pike your brother caught through a hole in the ice. Calories are currency, and you'll bankrupt by February. Quirky tidbit: Vikings used urine, soaked wool as primitive long underwear. The ammonia softened fibers and, maybe, created marginal insulation. Enjoy that scratchy, pungent layer clinging to your skin as wind howls through the wall cracks. Why endure this? Because Odin's eye is watching. Because the Berserker gang, the warrior frenzy, promises power beyond pain. Because when Jarl Hakon's recruiter came, boasting of raids across whale roads, your father didn't meet your eyes. He just nodded. A third son is a hungry mouth in winter. Better you die a warrior than starve as a farmer. Historians still argue whether the Berserker rage was drug-induced henbane or hallucinogenic mushrooms, psychological hysteria, or sheer ritual brutality. Tonight, under this bruise-colored sky, it doesn't matter. The promise is all you have. You trudge toward the training field, a patch of trampled snow stained brown with old blood and vomit. Your breath hitches, not from cold, but fear. Around the practice dummies, men move like wounded bears. One slams a wooden axe into a post, howling, spittle freezing on his beard. His eyes are vacant, distant. That's the state you must learn to summon. The recruiter grins, teeth yellowed. Think you're hard, farm boy? Winter's just the whetstone. It sharpens you or snaps you. He slaps your back. You stagger, boots slipping. Laughter echoes. It's not cruel, just inevitable, like snowfall. Feel that? The subtle tremor in your hands. It's not just the cold, it's your body already breaking. A Viking child knew chronic hunger. A teen knew back-breaking labor. A berserker recruit, he knew exhaustion as a permanent state. Sleep is thin and haunted by the recruiters' stories. Men who snapped their own bones in frenzy and didn't notice until the battle fog lifted. You pull your thin cloak tighter. The wind finds your neck anyway. It whispers secrets colder than any blade. You wanted glory, but can you survive the becoming? The training field's frozen mud still clings to your boots as you're herded toward a smoke-blackened longhouse crouched at the forest's edge. Pine resin and something acrid-like burnt hair sting your nostrils. Inside, shadows dance on walls carved with twisting serpents and one-eyed Odin. Jarl Hakon's seer, a woman with bone needles threaded through her left earlobe, stirs a cauldron over a low fire. The liquid within bubbles thick and green, releasing fumes that make your eyes water. This is the gateway, the Berserk's gang brew. What they don't tell you in sagas. The first taste isn't courage, it's dread pooling in your gut like lead. Your hands tremble, but not from cold this time. It's the weight of crossing a threshold with no return. That farm boy who hauled firewood, he dies tonight. What emerges will belong to the frenzy. The seer thrusts a wooden bowl into your hands. Steam curls up, carrying notes of rotten mushrooms and iron. Mainstream fact, archaeologists found traces of Hyoscyamus niger, black henbane, in Viking burial sites a plant, causing hallucinations, aggression, and fatal cardiac arrest if dosed wrong. You gag as sludge coats your tongue earthy, bitter, with an aftertaste like licking a rusty sword. Swallow, little bear cub, the seer croons. Odin's gift demands sacrifice. Around you initiates retch. One collapses, convulsing. The seer kicks him aside. Weak roots snap in the storm. She shrugs. You force another gulp, throat burning. Quirky tidbit. Some fringe researchers suggest Vikings added fermented toad venom for battle trance, mistaking seizures for divine possession. Imagine explaining that to Valhalla's gatekeeper. Sorry, I'm just here for the amphibian neurotoxins. Heat blooms in your chest, first a false comfort, like swallowing embers. Then the longhouse walls ripple. Carved serpents writhe. The seer's face fractures into 3 shimmering specters. Colors sharpen until the torchlight screams yellow. Your heartbeat drums against your ribs. Thud, 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 faster than a warhorse's gallop. The recruit beside you morphs into a snarling wolf. Instinct screams, "Kill it!" Your fist swings but strikes empty air. Laughter echoes. Yours, someone else's? Historians still argue whether the potion triggered genuine psychosis or merely amplified existing rage through sensory overload. Does it matter? Your thoughts unravel like frayed rope. Memories surface, your father's missing fingers, the recruiter's yellowed teeth, the starving winter of '68 when you ate boiled birch bark. Fury, bright and cleansing, floods your veins. Yes, this is power. This is vomit. You're on hands and knees, heaving bile onto the earthen floor. The wolf recruit does the same. The seer watches, impassive. The body rebels, she says. The spirit must conquer. But your limbs won't obey. Muscles twitch like plucked harp strings. When you try to stand, the world tilts violently. You crash into a support beam, wood groaning. Pain flares in your shoulder reel, sharp, human. The frenzy recedes, leaving exhaustion so profound your bones feel liquid. The seer offers a water skin. Drink. The real work begins at moonrise. The water tastes of ash and defeat. Outside, twilight bleeds across the snow. Frost crystals glitter like shattered glass. You lean against the longhouse, gasping. The gift is a lie. No god touches this. It's poison and desperation. A shadow falls over you, the recruit who convulsed earlier. His nose bleeds sluggishly. They say it gets easier, he mutters. They lie. He spits red onto the snow. Crimson on white. A pretty omen. You remember Old Man Eagle back home, who drank foxglove tea for strong heart and died clawing at his own throat. Same principle, grander scale. Modern aside. Ever taken cold meds that made you jittery? Multiply that by 1,000. Swap daytime TV for homicidal hallucinations, and you've got Tuesday night Berserker boot camp. The Jarl's horn bellows. Moonrise. Time to prove the poison's worth. You're handed a practice axioc shaft, blunt iron head. The wolf recruit faces you, eyes bloodshot, breath ragged. First blood summons the bear spirit, the seer declares. But your arms feel stuffed with wet wool, your vision swims. The other recruit charges, screaming. You raise your axe. Slow, too slow. His weapon slams your ribs. Agony explodes, stealing your breath. You stagger, tasting copper. Bee blood, yours. The seer nods approval. Pain is the key. Turn it. So you do. You lean into the throbbing in your side. Focus on it. Feed it. That farm boy's shame when his father looked away. The frozen toes. The urine-soaked wool. The vomit. The weakness. Your raw surprises even Euro, guttural, tearing from a place deeper than lungs. Colors bleed again. The recruit isn't a wolf now. He's a blur of meat and fear. Your axe swings, connects. Wood cracks against bone. His collarbone. Your sanity. He crumples. You kick him. Again. Again. Hands drag you back. You fight them, spitting, snarling. They chain you to a post like a rabid dog. The cold night air bites your heaving chest. The frenzy ebbs, leaving hollow shame. The wolf recruit whimpers in the snow. You did that. You. The seer approaches. She doesn't praise, doesn't scold. She traces a rune on your forehead with icy fingers. Ulfhathan, she whispers. Wolf coat. A title? An epitaph? Chains chafe your wrists. Blood dries sticky on your chin. Above, the northern lights writhe like spectral serpents. Beautiful. Cruel. You watch them until your eyes burn. The frenzy promised freedom. All it delivered was a cage within your own skin. The iron chains bite into your wrists. Cold as a grave slab and twice as unforgiving. Northern lights still pulse overhead, casting sickly green shadows on the snow where the wolf recruit, Eric, you finally recall his name, lies moaning. His collarbone juts against skin like a snapped oar. Shame curdles in your gut, thick as the seer's brew. This isn't strength. This is rupture. Dawn bleeds gray light over the training yard, revealing the other initiates watching you, eyes wide with a mix of awe and primal fear. Not respect, dread. The seer approaches, frost crunching under her boots. She doesn't unlock the chains. Instead, she drapes a heavy, stinking mass over your shoulders. It hits you like a physical blow, the overwhelming stench of decay, old blood, and animal musk. Bare. The pelt is enormous, the head lolling grotesquely over yours, glassy eyes staring blindly. The fur is matted, stiff with dried gore and mud. Crawling with lice you can already feel migrating onto your scalp. Its weight presses down, not just physically, but spiritually, a suffocating mantle. Wear it always, the seer commands, her voice devoid of ceremony. Sleep in it, fight in it, become it, until the bear's spirit or your own breaks. Mainstream fact. Sagas like Eagles describe berserkers as berserker or ulfethner, bear shirts, wolf coats, signifying the ritual pelts weren't mere costume, but a sacred, terrifying transformation tool. Wearing it marked you as separate, feared, untouchable. The pelt's inner lining, once soft under fur, is crusted with layers of old sweat, vomit, and substances you don't want to identify. It clings to your damp tunic, instantly sapping what little warmth you had. It itches everywhere. The bear's muzzle bumps against your forehead with every slight movement, a constant grim reminder. Queer tidbit. Some fragmented rune stones depict berserkers with bears licking their weapons, leading fringe theorists to suggest handlers used captive bears to bless pelts with saliva, believing it transferred ferocity. Imagine the logistics. Wrestling a grumpy Scandinavian brown bear to slobber on your new battle jacket. Less divine blessing, more workplace hazard. The chains finally clatter open. You stumble, unused to the uneven weight, the restricted movement. Walking feels like dragging a corpse. As you move towards the smoky longhouse for watery gruel, the other recruits melt away. A child fetching water shrinks back, whimpering. Even the hard-bitten veterans tending the fire avoid your gaze. You are no longer one of them. You are Othin's property. A weapon wrapped in rotting fur. The gruel tastes like ash. Every swallow is a battle against nausea amplified by the pelt stench enveloping your head. A fly buzzes persistently near the bear's desiccated nose. Training resumes under a leaden sky. The blunt axe feels alien in your frozen fingers. The drill master, a scarred giant named Thorgrim, barks orders. Shield formation! Move! Maggots! You lumber into position, the bear pelt snagging on the shield rim of the man beside you. Bjorn, a solid farmer from the south. He flinches violently, nearly dropping his shield. Keep that thing off me, beast, he hisses. Genuine terror in his eyes. The insult stings, but the fear, it feeds a dark ember inside you. Historians still argue whether the pelt was purely psychological, a focus for hysteria, or part of a shamanistic ritual invoking animal spirits. Filgur, did they believe they became bears, or was it a terrifying performance? Standing there reeking, isolated, feeling the lice bite, belief feels like a luxury you can't afford. You are simply a man wearing a dead thing, marked for madness. Thulgrim singles you out. Bear cub front and center. You shuffle forward, the pelt dragging in the slush. He doesn't attack you. He attacks it. His practiced sword thuds against the bear's skull, inches from your own head. Thwack! The impact vibrates through your spine. Thwack! Again and again. Feel that, cub? He roars. Your enemy will aim for the beast's head. They see the monster first. Can you fight while your vision shakes? While your skull rings like a bell? Modern aside, ever worn an ill-fitting bike helmet that slips over your eyes? Now, imagine it weighs 20 pounds, smells like a dumpster behind a taxidermist, and someone's actively hitting it with a bat. That's your new normal. The blows jar your mind, the constant itch, the crushing isolation, the weight, rage. It doesn't feel like fire this time. It feels cold, a glacier grinding through your veins. The world narrows to Thorgrim's leering face and the thudding vibration in your skull. A guttural sound tears from your throat, not a roar, more like rocks grinding together. Your axe swings, not with skill, but with the desperate, unbalanced fury of a cornered animal dragging a carcass. Thorgrim blocks, but the sheer, unexpected ferocity drives him back a step. Surprise flickers in his eyes. Good. You swing again, ignoring his counterstrike that glances off the bear pelt's shoulder. Pain registers distantly, a dull throb beneath the ice-cold fury. You press forward. A stinking, shambling mound of fur and fury, axe rising and falling with terrifying, unskilled force. Thorgrim stops mocking. He defends. Seriously. The frenzy doesn't lift like before. It settles. A cold, murderous clarity replaces the boiling chaos. You see the slight widening of Thorgrim's eyes as your axe grazes his forearm. You hear the sharp intake of breath from the watching recruits. You feel the lice crawling, the weight of the pelt, the ache in your skull from his blows, and it all fuels the icy furnace inside. This isn't possession, it's unleashing. Thorgrim disengages, stepping back, holding up a hand. Enough, cub. His voice holds a new note, not respect, assessment. Like a butcher eyeing livestock, the cold rage ebbs slowly, leaving you trembling, sweat stinging your eyes under the bear's head, lungs burning. The pelt feels heavier than ever. Thorgrim nods, a grim satisfaction on his face. The bear woke. Good. Now learn to walk with it before it drags you into a bog. He turns away. The recruits stare, not just at the pelt, but at you, at the thing you just became. Bjorn looks ready to vomit. The isolation isn't just physical now. It's carved into the space around you, wider and deeper than before. You wear the pelt. You wielded its fury. And now, even the possibility of being human again feels like a dream buried under rotting fur, and the memory of that cold, precise rage. The path back is gone. Only the burden remains. Dawn bleeds gray and cold over the training yard, but there's no reprieve. The bear pelt is a second skin now, damp with night frost and your own sour sweat, its weight a constant, grinding reminder of what you've become. Thorgrim stands silhouetted against the pale light, holding not a practice axe, but two thick, unvarnished oak staves, each as long as your arm and heavy as sin. Pain, he grunts, tossing one at your feet. It lands with a thud that vibrates through the frozen ground. Pain is the whetstone cub. Today, you learn its edge. The implication hangs in the frigid air. You will be sharpened, or you will snap. The drill is brutal simplicity. Stand. Hold the stave in both hands, braced horizontally across your lower back, just above the hips. Squat. Hold. Rise. Repeat. It sounds mundane. It's torture. The oak bites into the muscles flanking your spine, a dull, deep ache that begins almost immediately. Your thighs scream as you sink into the squat, the bear pelt dragging you down like an anchor. Holding the position, agony blooms in your knees, creeps up your thighs, locks your lower back in a vice of protest. Rising feels like hauling the longship itself onto dry land. 10 repetitions. Your breath comes in ragged gasps, fogging the air beneath the bear's snarling muzzle. 20. Black spots dance at the edges of your vision. 30. A whimper escapes your lips, instantly swallowed by the thick fur. Thorgrim watches, arms folded, expressionless. The bear doesn't whine, he states flatly. It endures. Mainstream fact: Viking combat relied on explosive power and endurance, built through relentless physical conditioning. Sagas describe warriors training with weighted logs and performing feats of strength that bordered on mythical, swimming fords in full armor, wrestling bulls. This wasn't gym bro vanity. Surviving a shield wall required muscles that wouldn't fail when soaked in blood and exhaustion. Your trembling legs are paying the price for that historical reality. Sweat stings your eyes, mingling with the salt crust left from yesterday's tears of shame and rage. The lice in the pelt seem invigorated by your body heat, their tiny bites a maddening counterpoint to the deep muscular agony. Quirky tidbit. Archaeologists found peculiar, smoothed wooden rods in some high-status Viking graves, sometimes buried alongside weapons. Fringe theories suggest these were pain sticks, tools used in ritualized endurance training, pressed against pressure points, or gripped during strenuous exercises to focus the mind through suffering. Maybe Thorgrim staves are their practical, brutal cousins. Imagine explaining your rest day. Sorry, Jarl, can't raid Lindisfarne today. My ritual pain stick gave me splinters. The squat drill bleeds into shield drills. You're paired with Bjorn again. The fear in his eyes is still there, but it's hardened into resentment. Thorgrim barks, bear cub, hold your shield high. Bjorn, strike it, hard, like you mean to cave his skull in. Bjorn needs no encouragement. His practice sword, a heavy oak bat wrapped in leather, crashes against your shield rim with jarring force. Crack. The impact shivers up your arm, rattling the old injury in your shoulder from the Seer's Brew Night. You grunt, staggering back a step under the bear pelt's weight. Hold! Thorgrim roars. Root yourself! The bear doesn't yield! Bjorn strikes again. Crack. Higher. The blow glances off the top rim, slamming into the bear skull perched above your own head. A dull, resonant thum echoes inside the hollow cavity, vibrating through your skull, blurring your vision. Pain, sharp and bright, lances from your temples. Historians still argue whether the constant microconcussions from blows absorbed by helmets or bear skulls contributed to berserker madness, a slow-cooked brain injury simmering alongside the rage. Standing there, ears ringing, head throbbing, it feels less like an argument and more like a diagnosis. The day dissolves into a blur of agony. Axe drills where your blistered hands slip on the smooth oak, the blunt head thudding harmlessly into practice posts while Thorgrim's insults land with cutting precision. Running laps around the compound perimeter, the bear pelt flapping like a grotesque sail, tripping you, slowing you, making every stride a battle against suffocation and gravity. You finish last, vomiting thin bile onto the snow while the others watch, panting, their expressions a mix of pity and contempt. The isolation is a physical presence now, colder than the wind. You eat your meager portion of fish stew alone, perched on a frost-covered log at the compound's edge, the bear's dead eyes staring blankly across the frozen fjord. Evening brings no rest. Inside the drafty recruit's longhouse, you still sleep here, though your presence is a dark stain on the communal space. Thorgrim appears with a clay pot of foul-smelling salve. For the fire in your muscles, he grunts, tossing it to you. It reeks of rancid fat and bitter herbs. You peel off your tunic beneath the pelt, the movement sending fresh spasms through your back and shoulders. The sight makes you flinch. Bruises bloom like storm clouds across your ribs, back, and arms. Deep purple, mottled yellow, testament to Bjorn's strikes and your own falls. Blisters weep on your palms. The salve stings like venom when you rub it in, but slowly a deep, numbing warmth spreads, dulling the sharpest edges of the pain. Modern aside, ever use deep heat cream after overdoing it at the gym? This is the Viking equivalent, probably made from rendered badger fat and stinging nettles. Congratulate yourself on achieving peak Viking-era physical therapy. But the deeper pain remains. The shame of Eric's broken collarbone. The terror in Bjorn's eyes. The relentless, crushing weight of the pelt, both physical and symbolic. As you try to sleep, curled fetally on the hard bench, the bear's muzzle pressing into your neck, the salve's warmth can't reach the cold knot of dread in your stomach. Tomorrow, Thorgrim promised, the pain gets worse. The training intensifies. How much can a body break before it stops trying to heal? How much humiliation can a spirit absorb before the only refuge is the cold rage? The questions circle like wolves in the dark. Outside, the wind howls, sounding eerily like the guttural roar that tore from your throat yesterday. Was it the bear, or was it simply you, stripped bare by exhaustion, poison, and the relentless grind of becoming a weapon? The line blurs. Sleep, when it finally comes, is a black pit devoid of dreams, only the phantom sensation of falling. The whetstone grinds on, even in the dark. How much of you will be left when the battle comes? The numbing salve's warmth fades faster than hope. Dawn isn't a relief. It's a summons back to the grinding wheel of your existence. You wake not rested, but emptied, every muscle screaming a protest that vibrates deep in your bones. The bear pelt feels heavier today, its stench a thick miasma in the still, cold air of the longhouse. Your stomach growls, a hollow, aching sound that echoes the vast emptiness inside. Thorgrim's drills are agony, but this gnawing void beneath your ribs is a slower, more insidious torment. Welcome to the Berserker diet, where feast is a fleeting dream, and famine is your constant, grumbling companion. Forget sagas overflowing with roast boar and rivers of mead. Your reality is a wooden bowl of grotcher, a porridge so thin it barely qualifies as gruel. Swirl the spoon. It parts like murky water, revealing a few sad barley grains clinging to the bottom. The taste? Like licking a damp, musty cellar floor. You force it down, the lukewarm sludge doing little to quell the hunger cramps twisting your gut. Mainstream fact. The Viking diet was heavily reliant on seasonal availability and preservation. For common folk and warriors alike, staples were barley, oats, rye, dried fish, often rancid, occasional dairy, skyr, whey, and whatever vegetables could be stored, turnips, onions, cabbages, often pickled or dried into near tastelessness. Calories were scarce, especially in winter and early spring. Malnutrition wasn't a risk, it was a baseline condition. You glance at Bjorn, shoveling his own portion with grim efficiency. His knuckles are white on the spoon. Resentment radiates off him like heat, but even he doesn't waste a drop. Hunger is the great equalizer, a desperate need that overshadows fear. Across the fire pit, Eric struggles. His collarbone is bound tightly, his face pale and drawn. He can barely lift his spoon. You see the calculation in the eyes of the man beside him. A quick glance, a subtle shift. Before Eric can react, the man dips his own spoon into Eric's bowl, scooping out a meager mouthful. Eric flinches but says nothing. Weakness is exploited. Calories are currency, and the injured are bankrupt. Quirky tidbit. Analysis of Viking cesspits reveals parasitic infections. Whipworm, roundworm were rampant, likely from consuming undercooked meat, contaminated water, or using human feces as fertilizer, night soil. So, while you're starving, you might also be hosting a lively intestinal ecosystem. Bon appétit! The morning's training is a fog of pain layered over exhaustion. Thorgrim's shouts sound distant, muffled by the persistent growl of your stomach and the heavy throb in your head. Your limbs feel leaden, unresponsive. During shield drills, Bjorn's practice sword slams into your guard. Normally, you'd brace, absorb it. Today, the impact drives you to one knee, the bare skull crashing forward, almost blinding you. Laughter erupts, sharp, mocking. Not just from Bjorn, from others. The sound is like salt in a wound. Thorgrim strides over, yanking you upright. Hungry bear cub? He sneers. Hunger sharpens the teeth. Use it. But hunger feels like it's blunting everything. Your strength, your focus, your will. Later, hauling firewood from the forest's edge, the world swims. Black spots dance at the periphery of your vision. Your hands tremble violently on the rough bark of the log. Is this the potion's lingering curse, the cumulative exhaustion? Or simply your body screaming for sustenance it hasn't had in weeks? You stumble, the log crashing down, narrowly missing your foot. Leaning against a frost-rimed pine, you gasp, sucking in air that feels thin, insufficient. You spot it then, a patch of brittle, gray-green lichen clinging to the bark. F. Jalagros. Iceland moss. Old Man Eagle back home used to boil it into a bitter, gelatinous paste during lean times. Starvation makes strange bedfellows. You scrape a handful off the bark, stuffing it into your mouth. It tastes like dust and despair, fibrous and impossible to chew properly. You gag, forcing it down with a handful of dirty snow. It sits like a rock in your hollow stomach. Historians still argue whether berserkers were deliberately underfed to induce irritability and lower inhibitions, making them more susceptible to rage triggers, or if it was simply the harsh reality of provisioning a war band. Standing there, trembling, tasting dirt and moss, the distinction feels academic. The result is the same. A body cannibalizing itself, a mind fraying at the edges. Days blur into a monotonous cycle of gnawing hunger and punishing labor. The bear pelt becomes a mobile prison, its weight a constant drain on dwindling reserves. You notice the changes. Your ribs press sharply against your skin, your cheeks hollow. Your reflection in the still water of a trough is a gaunt stranger with sunken eyes, framed by a grotesque, decaying bare head. The cold bites deeper now. The meager layer of fat that once offered scant insulation is gone. You shiver constantly, a fine tremor that never quite stops, making the bare fur quiver as if alive. Even the lice seem less active, perhaps starving too. Then, a ripple in the monotony. A hunt returns. A single, scrawny boar, brought down after a grueling chase. Anticipation crackles in the air, thick enough to momentarily overpower the smell of the pelt. Tonight, there will be meat. The boar is butchered with ruthless efficiency. Organs saved for broth, hide scraped for tanning, sinew set aside for bowstrings. The lean meat is chopped, most thrown into a massive cauldron for stew. But the heart, liver, and a few choice cuts are reserved. For the jarl? For Thorgrim? No. The seer takes them, along with a horn of dark sour beer. She gestures to you, Eric, still weak, and two other initiates. Come, the bear must taste blood. You're led to a smaller, darker longhouse behind the main hall. The air is thick with smoke and the iron tang of blood. The seer places the boar's heart, still steaming faintly, onto a rough stone slab. The ja tableau, she intones, the heart sacrifice, for strength, for fury. She hands you a small, sharp knife. Taste. Let the beast's life fire enter you. Modern aside, ever done a shot of wheatgrass juice for vitality? This is the Viking extreme version, consuming raw organ meat, rich in iron and B vitamins and bacteria, in a ritualistic attempt to absorb the animal's essence. Think of it as a prehistoric protein shake, minus the blender, and plus a significant risk of parasitic infection. The heart muscle is dense, warm, slick with blood. The smell is overwhelming, primal, metallic. You cut a sliver, the knife trembling in your hand. You place it on your tongue. The texture is tough, rubbery. The taste? Overpowering iron, a coppery flood that makes your gorge rise. You chew, forcing it down, the raw meat catching in your throat. It feels like swallowing life itself, violent, vital, and utterly alien. Around you, the others do the same. Faces pale, jaws working with grim determination. Eric gags, doubling over, but manages to keep it down. The seer watches, her eyes gleaming in the firelight. Remember this taste, she whispers. This is the flavor of power, of survival. Back in the main hall, the stew is served. It's thicker tonight, chunks of tough boar meat bobbing in the greasy broth. You eat ravenously, the memory of the raw heart's iron tang still coating your mouth. The meat is stringy, gamey, but it feels like ambrosia. For a few precious moments, the gnawing emptiness recedes, replaced by a heavy, almost painful fullness. You scrape the bowl clean, licking the wood. But the respite is fleeting. In the deep night, your stomach rebels. Cramps twist your gut, sharp and sudden. Sweat beads on your forehead despite the cold. The raw heart, the unfamiliar richness after weeks of starvation. It's too much. You stumble outside into the freezing darkness, retching violently into the snow. The meager meal, the precious calories, lost. You kneel there, shivering, stomach heaving long after it's empty, the acidic burn of bile in your throat. Above, the indifferent stars glitter. The bare pelt, soaked with sweat and vomit, clings to you, icy now. The taste of iron is gone, replaced by bitterness and defeat. The feast was a cruel joke. The famine endures. Your body, already weakened, feels further broken. The path of the berserker isn't just paved with rage and pain. It's lined with the gnawed bones of your own vitality, slowly consumed to feed the beast they demand you become. The hunger isn't just in your belly anymore. It's in your soul. A hollow echo promising only more emptiness ahead. The raw boarheart's rebellion leaves you hollowed out, shivering under the bare pelt as dawn bleeds a sickly gray across the compound. The taste of bile is a constant companion now, layered over the ever-present musk of decay. Thorgrim's drills feel like moving through tar, sluggish, heavy, every lift of the practice axe an act of sheer will against a body screaming for rest and sustenance. Just as the familiar grind of exhaustion threatens to swallow you whole, the rhythm changes. The seer appears at the edge of the training yard, her bone-needled earlobe catching the weak light. She doesn't speak to Thorgrim, only nods towards the dark wall of pines beyond the palisade. A silent command. Thorgrim barks an order, bear cub, with her. The rest, haul water till your backs break. Relief? No. Dread coils tighter in your gut. The forest isn't refuge, it's the realm of darker things. You shuffle after the seer, the bare pelt snagging on low branches, the skull bumping against your back with each step. The dense canopy swallows the weak daylight, plunging you into a twilight world of dripping moss, skeletal birches, and the deep, damp smell of rotting wood and unseen things. The air grows colder, stiller. The sounds of the compound, axes thudding, men shouting, fade, replaced by the creak of ancient trees, the skitter of something small in the underbrush, the drip, 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 drip of melting frost. Mainstream fact: sacred groves were central to Old Norse paganism, natural sanctuaries dedicated to gods like Odin, Thor, or Freyr. These were places of sacrifice, ritual, and communion with the divine, often feared and avoided by the uninitiated. Entering one wasn't a walk in the woods, it was stepping onto holy, haunted ground. The seer stops abruptly before a massive, lightning-scarred oak. Its gnarled roots erupt from the earth like petrified serpents, cradling a moss-covered stone stained dark with old offerings. Animal skulls, deer, boar, even a wolf, hang from low branches, swaying slightly in the chill air. The ground around the stone is littered with cracked bones, tufts of fur, and the desiccated remains of small birds. The silence here is absolute, pressing in on your ears. This is, Athens, whisper. The seer murmurs, her voice unnaturally loud in the stillness. She gestures to the stained stone. Place your hand upon it. Feel the god's breath. Quirky tidbit. Some fringe scholars, analyzing obscure saga passages and unusual grave goods, like bundles of specific feathers and bird claws, speculate certain berserkers practiced cedar, a form of Norse magic typically associated with women and the god Odin, involving prophecy, spirit journeys, and potentially shapeshifting. Imagine trying to explain your CV. Skills include frenzied combat, ritual intoxication, and part-time avian soul projection. The stone is icy, unnaturally so, sucking the warmth from your palm instantly. The dark stain feels tacky, ancient. You half expect a jolt, a vision, something. There's only the profound cold and the oppressive weight of the watching forest. The seer watches you, her eyes unreadable. The fury you touch in training? It is a wild dog snarling on a frayed leash, she says, circling you slowly. Here we seek the hand that holds the leash, Othin's hand, or the beast's own. She stops before you, producing a small, bone-handled knife from her robes. The pelt binds you to the bear's spirit. But your own spirit? It rattles loose inside its cage. We must bind it or lose it. Before you can react, she grips your left wrist, the one not on the stone, with surprising strength. The knife flashes. A sharp, cold sting blooms just below your elbow. You gasp, trying to pull away, but she holds fast. Blood wells, dark crimson against your pale, bruised skin, dripping onto the mossy roots at the base of the sacred stone. Drip, drip, the sound is obscenely loud. Blood is the ink of oaths, she hisses, releasing you. She dips her finger in your blood, then smears a crude, angular rune, Ansu's, the rune of Odin, of communication, of madness, onto the bare skull's forehead, just above its empty eye sockets. The warm blood feels shocking against the cold bone. Your life, fire calls. Now, listen. She begins to chant. Low, guttural sounds that twist and writhe like smoke, unlike any language you know. They echo strangely under the canopy, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere. She stamps her foot rhythmically on the earth. Thump, 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 thump. The hanging skulls sway more violently. The air thickens, growing heavy and charged, like before a thunderstorm. The shadows between the trees seem to deepen, coalesce. Is that movement just shifting leaves? Or something else, drawn by the blood in the chant? Your own blood drips steadily onto the moss. The cold from the stone seeps up your arm, spreading through your shoulder, down your spine. Your heart hammers against your ribs. A frantic counterpoint to the seer's rhythmic stomping. Fear, pure and primal, replaces the exhaustion. This isn't training. This is an invitation to something vast, hungry, and utterly beyond your understanding. Historians still argue whether berserkers were initiates into specific secretive cults venerating Odin as a god of battle fury and ecstatic death, distinct from mainstream Norse worship, or if their rituals were simply extreme expressions of common warrior practices. Kneeling at Othin's whisper, blood dripping, shadows stirring, the distinction feels meaningless. You are prey on an altar. The chanting rises in pitch, becoming almost a shriek. The seer's eyes roll back, showing the whites. She throws her head back, arms outstretched. Hear him! The one-eyed, the hanged, the fury giver. Her voice cracks. The wind, silent until now, howls through the upper branches, making the skulls clatter like teeth. The shadows twist. You see it now? Not just darkness, but a suggestion of form, antlers, a cloak of raven feathers, or just terror painting pictures on the canvas of your mind. The icy numbness from the stone floods your chest, threatening to stop your heart. The fear is paralyzing. Then, a different impulse surges through the numbness. Not rage, not yet, but a desperate animal need to survive this violation. Instinct takes over. You wrench your hand from the freezing stone. The connection snaps. The seer staggers mid-chant, gasping as if struck. The unnatural wind dies instantly. The shadows shrink back to mere shade. The oppressive silence crashes back, broken only by your ragged breathing and the frantic drumming of your heart. Blood still trickles down your arm. The seer lowers her arms slowly. She looks at you, not with anger, but with a terrifying intensity. Her eyes are fully focused now, boring into yours. Sweat beads on her forehead despite the cold. You pulled away, she breathes, her voice hoarse. The gate was opening, and you slammed it. She takes a step closer. The bone needles in her ear gleam. Cowardice? Or strength? She reaches out, not with the knife, but with a finger, and traces the blood-smeared Ansu's rune on the bear skull. The bear does not fear the storm. It is the storm. Your spirit, it still clings to the farm, to the fire, to the soft life. Her voice drops to a whisper, colder than the stone. To wield the frenzy, you must become unbinding. You must offer your fear, your doubt, your very self on this stone, until nothing remains but the will to rend and roar. Are you prepared to be unmade, Ulfathin? Her question hangs in the frigid air. The sacred grove feels less like a holy place now, and more like a trap. The skulls leer. The moss beneath your knees feels like a burial shroud. The blood on your arm is already cooling, sticky, and uncomfortable. You wear the pelt. You've tasted the rage and the raw heart. You've bled on the godstone. But pulling away felt like the only truly human thing you've done in weeks. The seer sees your hesitation. A flicker of disappointment crosses her face, quickly masked. The path is open only to the hollow ones, she says, turning away. When you are ready to be emptied, return. The walk back to the compound is a blur. The bear pelt feels heavier than ever, the blood rune on its skull a burning brand announcing your failure. The familiar smells of wood smoke and unwashed bodies feel jarringly mundane. Bjorn smirks as you pass the water trough. You ignore him. The sacred grove's cold silence clings to you, a shroud beneath the rotting fur. The seer offered power, but at a price you instinctively flinched from, annihilation. The farm boy did pull away. The berserker should have embraced the abyss. That internal fracture, that war between the man and the monster they demand you become, feels wider, deeper, and more desolate than the frozen fjord itself. The path forward isn't just paved with pain and hunger. It demands the sacrifice of your very soul on a blood-stained stone in the silent woods. The question echoes, are you hollow enough to walk it? The sacred grove's silence clings to your bones, colder than the fjord wind. You stumble back into the compound, the bear skull's blood rune feeling like a brand seared into your forehead. Not just the bone. Bjorn's smirk as you pass the water trough is a physical blow, but you barely register it. The seer's question echoes in the hollow space the ritual carved inside you. Are you hollow enough? The answer, written in the tremble of your hands and the cold sweat beading under the pelt, feels like a resounding no. You crave the numbness of exhaustion, the simple agony of Thorgrim's drills. Anything to drown out the memory of those twisting shadows and the terrifying void the seer offered. But fate, or Odin, or the sheer cruel momentum of your chosen path has other plans. A horn blast shatters the afternoon gloom, sharp, urgent, 2 short bursts. Not Thorgrim's drill signal, the raid horn. Instantly the compound erupts. Men drop firewood, axes, half-mended nets. Grim excitement replaces the usual sullen exhaustion. This is the promise, the glittering lure that dragged you from the frozen farmstead. Plunder, glory, escape. Thorgrim strides into the center, his scarred face alight with predatory glee. Listen up, maggots! Jarl's scouts spotted a Saxon trader's gnaw run aground south of here. Rich silks, Frankish wine, good iron. A collective growl rises from the men. Riches. Warmth, food. We move fast. Light gear, bear cub. His eyes lock onto you. Front and center. Tonight, you earn that stinking hide. Panic, cold and sharp, slices through your fatigue. You haven't mastered the rage. You flinched from the god's touch. You're weak with hunger and haunted by failure. The thought of facing real combat with sharp steel and desperate men makes your knees threaten to buckle. The bear pelt feels like a shroud. You shuffle forward, the weight dragging at your steps. Thorgrim slaps the bear's skull. Let the beast out, cub, or die squealing like the farm pig you are. His smile holds no warmth, only anticipation. He's not sending a warrior. He's releasing a weapon. Consequences be damned. Mainstream fact, Viking raids on vulnerable coastal settlements, monasteries, and merchant ships were often opportunistic. Lightning, fast strikes, strand hug, exploiting surprise and superior mobility. Targets like grounded or isolated vessels were prime pickings, offering high reward for relatively low risk. Your trembling hands are about to participate in textbook Norse economic activity. The run south is a nightmare. Light gear means no mail, just your tunic, the unbearable pelt, axe, shield, and a sea axe knife at your belt. The bear skull bounces against your back with each jarring stride, a constant, bruising reminder. Hunger cramps twist your gut, competing with the acidic churn of fear. The landscape blurs, skeletal trees, frozen marsh, the relentless gray sky. Bjorn runs beside you, breathing hard, his earlier resentment replaced by a focused intensity. He spares you a glance, not of camaraderie, but assessment. Can the weapon perform? You smell the sea before you see it. Salt, rot, wood smoke. Then the scene unfolds below the windswept bluffs. A sleek Saxon gnar, its single mast snapped like a twig, heeled over on a rocky shoal. Figures scramble on the deck, tiny at this distance. Smoke rises from a hasty fire on the beach. Voices carry on the wind. Shouts, orders, the high-pitched keen of fear. Thorgrim halts the group, crouching in the gorse. Right. Simple smash and grab. They're merchants, not warriors, but cornered rats bite. Shield wall on the beach. Bear cub. He turns, his eyes gleaming like chips of flint. You break it. He points towards the gnar. Get aboard. Cause chaos. Let them see the monster. He grins. Remember the heart blood. Remember the stone. One leash. Quirky tidbit. Some fragmented Saxon chronicles mention raiders who fought clad in the skins of wolves and bears, howling like beasts, but also describe them as peculiarly vulnerable to targeted insults, sometimes breaking formation in rage if taunted effectively about their manhood or courage. Imagine medieval trash talk as a viable combat tactic. Oi, furball! Did your mom knit that ugly hat? Descending the bluff is treacherous, loose shale skittering underfoot. The bear pelt snags on thorny bushes, slowing you, making you clumsy. The Saxons spot you. A cry goes up. Arrows, weak and hastily loosed, skitter off rocks or fall short. Fear is a live wire in your chest. This isn't training. This is blood and death. You hit the pebbled beach. The shield wall forms around you with practiced speed, overlapping limewood planks painted with crude, swirling patterns, a barrier of wood and grim faces. Bjorn is on your left, shield locked tight. You raise yours, the movement stiff, awkward under the pelt's weight. Across the narrow stretch of beach, the Saxon crew forms a ragged line. They look terrified, but desperate, clutching axes, fishing spears, a few short swords. Their eyes, wide and white, flicker towards you. The monstrous figure in decaying bearskin. Thorgrim's roar splits the air. Forward. The shield wall lurches ahead, a grinding, stomping machine. Bear, cub, now. The command is a lash. This is it, the moment you were forged for, or broken by. You suck in a breath thick with salt and fear. You try to summon the cold rage of the training yard, the seer's promise of God-touched fury. Nothing, only hollow terror. The shield wall slows, pressing towards the Saxons. A spear thuds into the shield next to yours. Splinters fly. A Saxon warrior, braver or more desperate than the rest, darts forward, screaming, his axe swinging towards Bjorn's exposed leg. Bjorn shifts to block, his shield pulling slightly away from yours. A gap opens. Instantly, a Saxon spear jabs through, aimed at your face. You jerk back. The spear point grazes the bare skull above your ear with a sickening screech. The shock vibrates through your skull. Pain flares. And something else. Not cold rage. White-hot terror. The world narrows to the Saxon's wide, panicked eyes, the glint of the spear, the smell of his sweat, and the reek of your own pelt. That gnawing hunger, the humiliation, the seer's disappointment, the sacred grove's shadows, Thorgrim's contempt. It all ignites. It's not a wave. It's an explosion. Sound distorts. The clash of shields, the screams, the wind, it all merges into a deafening, high-pitched roar in your ears. Your vision tunnels, edges blurring into red haze. The Saxon before you isn't a man. He's a blur of movement, a threat to be destroyed. No thought, only impulse. A guttural sound rips from your throat, deeper, more animal than human, echoing inside the bare skull. You don't feel the weight of the pelt anymore. You are the weight. You surge forward through the gap Bjorn left, shield forgotten, axe swinging in a wild, overhead arc fueled by pure, blind terror transmuted into violence. The Saxon spearman has a heartbeat to register the monstrous thing hurtling at him. His eyes widen further, not just fear now, but primal, soul-deep horror. He tries to raise his spear. Too late. Your axe, guided by instinctive fury rather than skill, cleaves down. It bites deep into the junction of his neck and shoulder with a wet, crunching thud. Hot blood sprays, shocking against the cold air, splattering your face, the bare fur. You don't feel it. You wrench the axe free. He crumples, a puppet with strings cut. The sight, the smell, the ease of it. It pours fuel on the inferno. The frenzy isn't cold or controlled. It's a wildfire consuming everything. Reason, fear, humanity. You spin, a whirlwind of matted fur and flashing iron. Another Saxon, holding a woodcutter's axe, lunges. You bat his clumsy swing aside with your own axe haft and slam your shield boss, the heavy iron dome at its center, into his face. Bone crunches. He falls screaming. You stomp once, twice. The screaming stops. You are moving, killing, a force of pure, unleashed destruction. Saxons scatter before you like chaff. Your axe finds a back, an arm, a thigh. A thrown rock bounces off the bear skull. You don't even flinch. Someone jabs a spear at your side. It tears your tunic, scrapes a shallow line across your ribs. You feel a distant tug, like a thorn scratch. Irrelevant. You backhand the spearman with your shield edge, sending him sprawling. You raise your axe for the killing blow. A hand grabs your shoulder from behind. Hard. Enough, Thorgrim's voice, a thunderclap close to your ear. The ship! The ship, you mad dog! The command barely registers. The fury once more. The spearman cowers, whimpering. Your axe trembles, hungry. Thorgrim's grip tightens, painful now, digging into the muscle beneath the pelt. He yanks you bodily back. The ship! Now. The sheer physical force, the authority in his roar, creates a tiny crack in the red haze. You turn, snarling, towards the gnaw. Men are already swarming aboard, hacking at ropes, dragging sacks from the hold. The remaining Saxons are fleeing into the dunes, broken. Historians still argue whether the Berserker rage truly suppressed pain and fear, or if it simply created a dissociative state where the mind detached from the body's suffering until the frenzy passed. Watching your blood mingle with a stranger's on the sand, feeling only a distant, wet warmth, dissociative feels terrifyingly accurate. You are a passenger in a body gone rogue. You lumber towards the grounded ship. The gangplank is slick with blood and seawater. You scramble up. The deck is chaos. Vikings ransacking, a few final pockets of resistance crushed near the stern. A sailor, young, maybe your brother's age, huddles behind a barrel, clutching a small knife. He sees you, sees the blood-soaked pelt, the axe dripping red, the inhuman emptiness in your eyes reflected in the bare skull sockets. He whimpers, throws the knife down, and curls into a ball, sobbing. The fury still hums in your veins, looking for an outlet, the easy prey. You take a step forward. A hand clamps on your wrist. Not Thorgrim this time. Bjorn. His face is pale beneath sweat and blood spatter, his eyes wide with something beyond fear, revulsion. He's done, Bjorn rasps, his voice tight. Leave it, plunders this way. He pulls, not roughly, but firmly, away from the cowering boy. The red haze flickers. The raw animal need to destroy clashes with something else. A flicker of recognition, the memory of your own terror moments before the frenzy, or simply Bjorn's grip, an anchor in the storm. You let him pull you away. The fury doesn't vanish. It recedes like a tide, leaving behind a vast hollow exhaustion, worse than anything Thorgrim inflicted. And something else settles in the void, a profound, soul-chilling cold. Not from the wind, from within. You look down at your hands. They're trembling violently, slick with blood, some Saxons, some your own from the spear scratch. You don't feel the wound. You don't feel much of anything. Just the crushing weight of the pelt, the metallic stink of blood soaking into its fur, and the echoing silence where your soul used to be. You unleash the beast. You earn the pelt. And all it cost was the last shred of the boy who once hauled firewood and dreamed of something more than frozen turnips. The hollowing has begun. The roar of battle dies like a strangled breath. Silence crashes down, heavier than the bear, pelt slick with blood. Your ears ring, your vision swims. The axe slips from fingers suddenly numb. It thuds onto the Nar's deck, echoing strangely loud in the sudden stillness. Around you, men cheer, tearing open sacks of grain, swigging stolen Frankish wine straight from the bottle. The air reeks of salt, spilled wine, copper, and the thick animal musk of your own sweat-soaked fur. You don't join them. You stand rooted, trembling, not from cold, from the hollow aftermath of the storm that just ripped through you. Your hands shake violently. You stare at them. They're painted crimson, sticky up to the wrists. Saxon blood. Your own blood, a shallow, stinging line along your ribs where the spear grazed you, feels like a distant echo. You touch it, warm, wet, real. The frenzy felt like being submerged in roaring, red water. Now you've surfaced, gasping, into a world that feels brittle and too bright. Mainstream fact: Viking battlefield aftermath was brutal pragmatism. Wounded comrades were assessed quickly. Could they walk? Could they fight again soon? If not, the mercy stroke was common. Your own shallow scratch would earn a grunt and maybe a dirty bandage. The Saxon whose neck you split? Already being stripped of anything valuable, his body destined for the tide or a shallow dune grave. No sagas sing of this cleanup. Thorgrim claps you on the back, the impact jarring your bruised shoulder beneath the pelt. Ha! Saw that first charge, cub, like a snow bear among lambs. That's what we needed. His breath reeks of wine. His approval feels alien, unwelcome. You flinch. His eyes narrow slightly, assessing the tremor in your hands, the vacant stare. First blood shakes everyone. He grunts, less jovial. Shake it off. Plunder waits. He shoves a heavy silver arm ring, still slick with blood, into your trembling hand. Your share. Earned it. The metal is cold, heavy. It feels like guilt given weight. You drop it. It clatters on the deck. Bjorn, nearby scooping grain into a sack, glances over. His expression isn't fear anymore. It's wary distance, like you're a spooked horse that might kick. He saw the frenzy. He saw the emptiness after. He saw you step towards the cowering boy. He doesn't say a word. He just turns back to the grain. The isolation you felt in the compound is back, magnified tenfold. You are not a comrade. You are the weapon they used. Quirky tidbit. Some recovered Viking age skull cups show signs of repeated repair, suggesting they were prized possessions passed down. Fringe theories propose warriors believed drinking from an enemy's skull transferred their strength or trapped their spirit. Imagine clinking your mead horn, made from Guthrum's head, and hoping for the best. Cheers. The journey back to the compound is a blur of exhaustion and echoing screams. Not real ones, just the ones replaying in your skull. The crunch of bone under your boot. The spray of warm blood on your face. The terrified eyes of the sailor you almost killed. The weight of the plunder on your back, a sack of coarse wool, a small iron cooking pot, the damned silver arm ring Thorgrim retrieved and thrust back at you, feels meaningless. The promised riches taste like ash. The crew sings raucous songs, celebrating the easy victory, the wine flowing freely. You sit apart near the prow, the freezing wind cutting through the blood-stiffened bare fur, trying to scrape the feeling of gore from your skin. It's under your nails, in the creases of your knuckles. Seeping into the pelt itself, you scratch at your arms, frantic, but the itch is inside, deeper. Back at the compound, the feast begins. Roasted meat, not your rationed gruel. Stolen wine, laughter. You sit on the periphery, the bare skull casting a long, grotesque shadow in the firelight. The seer watches you from across the flames, her gaze unreadable. She sees the tremor. She sees the hollowness. She offered annihilation in the grove. The battle delivered a different kind of emptying. Historians still argue whether the Berserker come down involved debilitating physical crashes from exhaustion, latent toxins, or adrenaline depletion, or profound psychological dissociation and guilt. Sitting there, smelling roasting pork but tasting only bile, feeling the phantom warmth of blood on your skin while shivering uncontrollably. The answer feels like both. Your body is a ruin. Your spirit feels scoured raw. Someone sloshes wine into your wooden cup. Drink, beast slayer. It's one of the veterans grinning. Wash the Saxon stink away. You lift the cup, the dark liquid swirls. For a heartbeat, it looks like blood. You gag, setting it down untouched. The veteran shrugs, moving on. The laughter and singing swirl around you, a wall of noise you can't penetrate. The face is blurred in the red haze. The Saxon spearman, the axeman, the feast fire burns low, casting long, dancing shadows that feel like accusing fingers. The laughter and songs grate against your raw nerves. That silver arm ring in your pouch, Thorgrim's grim prize, feels like a hot coal searing your hip. Every cheer, every clink of a drinking horn, echoes the wet crunch of the Saxon's collarbone, the slick slide of your axe biting deep. You push away untouched food and wine, the smells of roast pork and spilled ale mingling nauseatingly with the iron-tang memory of blood and the ever-present decay of the pelt. Finally, the revelry fades. Men stagger to sleeping benches, snoring almost instantly, drunk on victory and stolen wine. Silence descends, thick and heavy. But it's not peaceful. It's the silence after the storm, broken only by the crackle of dying embers and the frantic hammering inside your own skull. You lie rigid on your bench, the bare pelt a suffocating, blood-crusted blanket. The shallow spear cut along your ribs throbs dully, a grounding ache amidst the chaos in your head. Closing your eyes is worse. The images flash, sharp, and relentless. The Saxon spearman's widening eyes an instant before the axe fell. The spray of blood, shockingly warm against the cold air. The young sailor curled behind the barrel, whimpering like a cornered hare. Bjorn's hand pulling you back, his face etched with revulsion. Mainstream fact: Viking Age medicine was brutal and pragmatic. Wounds like yours would be cleaned with water or vinegar, packed with moss or honey, a natural antiseptic, and bound with linen strips. Infection was a constant, terrifying specter. Prayers to Ea, goddess of healing, were common, but survival often depended more on luck and a strong constitution than skill. Your scratch feels trivial compared to the internal wounds. Exhaustion weighs on you like stone, but sleep refuses to come. Every creak of the longhouse timbers sounds like a footstep. Every rustle of straw is a dying gasp. The bare skull presses into the back of your neck, a constant, unwelcome reminder of the monstrous shape you wore. You scratch absently at your arms, the lice in the pelt feasting merrily, oblivious to your torment. Quirky tidbit. Some rune stones and saga fragments suggest Vikings placed great importance on dreams, believing them messages from gods or glimpses of fate. Nightmares, especially after battle, might be interpreted as the restless dead seeking vengeance or warnings from the Norns. Imagine trying to explain your PTSD flashback to a village elder. The Saxon I axed keeps appearing in my dreams, dripping and glaring. Should I leave an extra fish offering? Dawn arrives gray and unwelcome. Moving is agony, not just from the wound, but from a deep, bone-weary exhaustion that feels permanent. Muscles scream with every step, abused far beyond Thorgrim's drills. Your head pounds, vision swimming slightly. The world feels muffled, distant, like you're viewing it through thick, dirty ice. Thorgrim sees you shuffling towards the training yard and barks a laugh. Look alive, bear cub, or undead. Ha! Battle shock wears off. Move! But it doesn't wear off. It settles. Training is a grotesque pantomime. Your limbs feel like wood. Your reactions are sluggish. Bjorn easily deflects your clumsy axe swings during drills, his expression cold, wary. He doesn't taunt. He doesn't engage. He treats you like a dangerous, unpredictable animal, which, after the beach, you suppose you are. The other recruits give you a wide berth. The camaraderie of shared hardship is gone, replaced by a tangible wall of fear and unease. You are the weapon that worked too well, the monster they needed but now fear might turn on them. The isolation is complete, a freezing void even colder than the winter air. Historians still argue whether berserkers were shunned after their usefulness in battle, potentially exiled or even killed by their own people once the frenzy became too unpredictable or the psychological toll made them liabilities. Watching Bjorn's averted gaze, feeling the space around you widen with every step, the argument feels chillingly plausible. The physical toll deepens. The spear scratch, neglected and rubbed raw by the pelt, grows red and angry. A fever takes hold by the third night, not raging but a persistent draining heat that makes you shiver under the rotting fur. Food turns to ash in your mouth. Thorgrim notices the sluggishness, the pallor beneath the grime. He grunts, tossing a small clay pot at your feet. Salve, don't die before the next raid. Waste of good fur. His concern is purely practical. You are an investment, a tool. Tools must be maintained, however crudely. You apply the rancid paste, the sting a welcome distraction from the hollow ache within. Sleep, when it finally comes, is worse than wakefulness. The nightmares aren't fragmented flashes anymore. They're vivid, suffocating replays. You feel the impact of the axe biting into the spearman's shoulder again. You hear the wet gurgle as he fell. You smell the blood, the fierce sweat, the salt. You lunge towards the cowering boy, axe raised, and this time Bjorn doesn't stop you. You wake gasping, drenched in cold sweat, the bear pelt clinging like a second skin of ice, your heart pounding against your ribs like a trapped bird. The silence of the longhouse presses in, accusing. The days blur into a gray sludge of pain, exhaustion, fever, and crushing guilt. The promised glory of the berserker is a cruel joke. There is no triumph, only trauma. No brotherhood, only isolation. No strength, only a gnawing weakness that feels terminal. The frenzy didn't forge you into something stronger. It shattered you. The farm boy is gone, buried under blood and bare fur. The warrior is a broken, feverish husk. What remains is a hollow vessel filled only with echoes of screams and the relentless, suffocating stench of decay, both from the pelt and the life you've been forced into. The crash isn't just physical or mental. It's the collapse of the entire brutal fantasy. The price of survival on that beach wasn't paid in silver or courage. It was paid in pieces of your soul. And the debt collector is the ghost of the man you killed, haunting your every ragged breath. The fjord winds bite sharper than Thorgrim's insults as the longship glides towards the familiar curve of your home bay. Months have bled into a gray smear of raids. near starvation, and the ever-present, crushing weight of the bare pelt. Your body is a tapestry of half-healed wounds and deep exhaustion. Your spirit feels scoured raw. The stolen silver in your belt pouch feels cold, meaningless. Home. The word echoes hollowly in your chest, a distant dream buried under layers of gore and rot. You see the smoke curling from longhouse roofs, your longhouse among them. A flicker of something ancient stirs beneath the numbness. Warmth? Safety? Or just the ghost of the boy you were? Mainstream fact, Viking society revolved around tight-knit farmsteads and kinship ties. Exile, utlagi, was a severe punishment, akin to social death. Returning home wasn't just comfort, it was reclaiming identity, protection, and belonging. You clutched that thought like a talisman against the dread coiling in your gut. The ship grounds on the familiar gravel beach. Men spill over the sides, laughing, shouting greetings to waiting families, hoisting sacks of grain, bolts of rough Saxon wool. You move slower, the bare pelt heavy, dragging in the shallows. The stink of it, old blood, decay, your own unwashed sweat, cuts through the clean salt air like a knife. People notice. The joyous clamor near the ship stutters, then dies. Faces turn. Children pointing, wide-eyed, then quickly hushed and pulled behind skirts. Women pause in their tasks, baskets of fish forgotten, eyes fixed on the monstrous figure emerging from the water. The laughter stops. Silence spreads like a stain. You scan the crowd, desperate. There, your mother, her face lined with seasons of wind and work, her hands stained from dyeing wool, her eyes find yours. For a heartbeat, there's relief, a smile starting to form, then it freezes. Her gaze travels over the matted, blood-darkened bare fur, the skull perched grotesquely above your head, the hollows beneath your eyes, the raw knuckles, the haunted emptiness you know lives there. Her hand flies to her mouth. Not joy, horror, pure, unvarnished horror. She takes a step back. Quirky tidbit. Archaeologists find curious, smooth, often hole-pierced stones in Viking homes, sometimes near hearths or beds. Called dreamstones, Drumsteinar, they were likely placed to ward off nightmares or evil spirits entering the home through dreams. Your mother might clutch one tonight. Your father pushes through the crowd, his back still straight. Though his missing fingers are stark against his grip on his belt knife, he stops a few paces away. His eyes, usually sharp as flint, rake over you. He sees the pelt, the lingering bruises, the deadness in your eyes that wasn't there when the recruiter took his third son. He doesn't embrace you. He doesn't speak your name. He just stares, his jaw working silently. The disappointment radiating from him is colder than the fjord. He gave them a hungry mouth. They returned a monster wrapped in a dead animal. Your younger siblings peek out from behind your mother's skirts. Your sister, who used to weave you little grass dolls, shrinks back, her lip trembling. Your brother, who once dogged your steps, stares with open fear, like you're a troll stumbled from the mountains. The warmth you craved is replaced by a chilling vacuum. The space around you is wider here than it ever was among the warriors. You are a walking ill omen, a thing that doesn't belong at the hearthside. You try to speak. Your voice comes out a dry rasp, unused to anything but roars or silence. Mother, father. The words hang in the air, clumsy, alien. Your mother flinches. Your father's gaze finally meets yours, hard and unyielding. That thing, he grinds out, nodding at the pelt. Take it off. Outside. It's not a request. It's an order. A banishment of the symbol. hoping the boy beneath might still be salvageable. Historians still argue whether berserkers could ever truly reintegrate into peaceful society after experiencing battle frenzy and ritual transformation, or if they were forever marked, destined for exile or a solitary existence. The revulsion on your father's face feels like the answer. You obey, shuffling away from the crowd towards the small byre where the goats huddle. The familiar smell of hay and animals is a weak comfort. With numb, trembling fingers, you fumble with the rawhide ties securing the bear pelt. The weight lifts, crashing to the hay-strewn floor with a heavy thud. Relief floods you, immediate and immense. A physical unburdening that makes you sway. You suck in a deep breath of clean air, untainted by rot and old blood. For a moment, you're just a man, cold, exhausted, aching. You turn back towards the longhouse. Your mother stands in the doorway, a bowl of steaming water and a clean homespun tunic in her hands. Her eyes are red-rimmed, but there's a fragile determination there. "Come," she whispers, her voice thick. "Wash, eat. It's an offering, a lifeline thrown across the chasm." You step inside. The warmth of the hearth is overwhelming after months of exposure. The smells of baking bread and stewed herbs are achingly familiar. But the atmosphere is strained. Your siblings sit huddled near the fire, stealing fearful glances. Your father sits sharpening his knife, his back deliberately turned. The silence is heavy, broken only by the crackle of the fire and the scrape of his whetstone. You wash awkwardly in the corner, the warm water stinging your scraped knuckles and the still, angry spear scratch. The clean tunge feels alien against your skin, too soft. You sit at the long table, the place that was yours. Your mother places a bowl of thick mutton stew before you, rich with barley and root vegetables, a feast compared to the camp slop. You stare at it. Your stomach churns. The memory of the roll bowl hot, the blood on the beach, rises like bile. You force a spoonful down. It tastes like ashes. The warmth of the hearth doesn't reach the cold knot inside you, the fear in your sister's eyes. Your father's turned back, the crushing weight of the pelt, even though it's outside. You are home. The walls are familiar. The faces are the ones you dreamed of. But the boy who lived here is gone, buried beneath the bear and the blood. You are a ghost at your own table, haunting a life you can no longer touch. The belonging you fought for, killed for, is just another kind of exile. The return isn't a salvation. It's the final confirmation of how utterly lost you are. The pelt is off, but the transformation is complete. You are Ulfa then, and there is no coming back. The hearth's warmth feels like a lie. You sit hunched over the stew bowl, the clean homespun tunic scratching against skin grown used to grime and blood-stiffened wool. Every bite of rich mutton and barley is a battle against nausea. Your father's whetstone scrapes rhythmically, angrily across his knife blade, the only sound besides the fire's crackle and your own ragged breathing. Your mother tries to fill the silence with brittle chatter about the lambing season, the repaired roof, the good herring catch. Her voice wavers. Your sister stares into the flames, refusing to look at you. Your brother edges closer to your father. The space around you at the table isn't physical. It's a wall of fear and revulsion built of shared blood. The farm boy's chair holds a stranger wrapped in unseen scars. Sleep, when it comes in the alcove that was once yours, is thin and haunted. The familiar smells of dried herbs and smoke can't mask the phantom stench of the bear pelt, the iron tang of blood. The straw mattress feels suffocatingly soft. You dream not of Saxons, but of Thorgrim's training yard. The crushing weight of the oak stave grinding into your spine, the seer's blood-smeared rune burning cold on the bare skull, Bjorn's eyes full of wary disgust. You wake, gasping before dawn, muscles locked in remembered agony. Not from nightmares, from the real pain. Mainstream fact: Viking life was physically brutal. Skeletal remains show widespread evidence of chronic injuries, arthritis, bone spurs, healed fractures, and severe dental wear. A warrior's body was often a ruin by middle age, a testament to relentless labor, combat, and malnutrition. Your own body, still young, is already a battlefield. The spear scratch along your ribs, neglected during the voyage home, has festered. It's an angry, weeping red line, hot to the touch. A deep, grinding ache has settled into your lower back, a legacy of hauling plunder and sleeping on hard decks. Your left knee throbs with every step, remembering a fall during a chaotic raid on a Pictish fishing village. Worst is the shoulder, the old injury from the Seer's Brew night, re-injured on the Norse deck. A simple reach for a water bucket sends white-hot agony lancing down your arm. You stifle a groan, but your mother hears. Her eyes flicker with pity and fresh fear. Sickness is one thing. The lingering damage of the berserker's path is something else. It marks you. Quirky tidbit. Some Viking graves contain small, worn amulets shaped like dismembered limbs or heads. Fringe theories suggest these were healing charms, possibly petitioning the gods for relief or magically transferring pain into the object. Your father might suggest carving a tiny wooden shoulder, but he won't speak to you at all. You try to help. Haul water, mend a fence, chop firewood. Every task is an ordeal. The axe feels alien in your weakened grip, the swing awkward, jarring your screaming shoulder. You drop a heavy log, stumbling as your knee buckles. Your father watches from the doorway, his expression stony. He doesn't offer help. He doesn't rebuke. His silence is condemnation. You are useless. Worse than useless. A broken tool, a dangerous animal rendered lame. The strength you traded your soul for is leaching away, leaving only the pain and the pervasive sense of wrongness. The isolation deepens. Villagers cross the path to avoid you. Children scatter when you approach the well. Whispers follow you. Ulf heathen. Bear sick. Odin's cursed. The fear isn't just of what you did, it's of what you are. A conduit for battle madness, a walking ill omen. Your mere presence near the barley fields might blight the crop. Your shadow falling on a birthing ewe might doom the lambs. Historians still argue whether communities viewed returning berserkers with superstitious dread, fearing their instability and connection to Odin's darker aspects, or if pragmatism prevailed, accepting them as damaged but potentially useful warriors. Here, dread has won. The fever returns, low and insistent, fueled by the infected wound and bone-deep exhaustion. You spend days shivering on your bench, drifting in and out of troubled sleep. Your mother tends the wound, applying pungent poultices of crushed yarrow and honey. Her touch is gentle, but her eyes avoid yours. She washes away pus and rebandages, her movements efficient, distant. The care is duty, not love. The chasm is too wide. The boy she nursed through childhood fevers is gone, replaced by this hollow, pain-riddled specter wrapped in invisible, rotting fur. One gray afternoon, a figure darkens the doorway. Bjorn. He stands awkwardly, shifting his weight, holding a small leather pouch. He hasn't come to your family's farmstead before. The sight of him, hale, whole, integrated back into the rhythm of farm life, is a physical blow. He avoids looking directly at you, his gaze fixed on a point above your head. Thorgrim sent this? He mutters, tossing the pouch onto the bench beside you. It clinks softly. Silver. Your share from the last raid, delivered late. Said you might need it for things. He doesn't specify. Medicine? A burial offering? He turns to leave, then hesitates. He glances at you, finally meeting your eyes. There's no camaraderie, no shared memory of hardship, only a profound unease, a flicker of the revulsion you saw on the Nar's deck. The Jarl, he asks after you. Bjorn adds, his voice flat, wonders if the bear will hunt again. It's not a question, it's an assessment. He sees the fever glaze in your eyes, the tremor in your hands, the way you favor your ruined shoulder. He sees a weapon broken beyond repair. His expression hardens, confirming it. Rest, he says, the word empty. Then he's gone, striding away quickly, eager to leave the sickness and the failure behind. You stare at the pouch. The silver within feels heavier than stone, payment for a life shattered. Thorgrim's practicality, a broken tool might still have salvageable parts. Bjorn's visit wasn't kindness. It was a message. You are no longer part of the warband. You are no longer useful. You are just damaged, alone. The pain isn't just in your shoulder or your ribs anymore. It's in every fiber, a constant, grinding reminder of the price paid, the path taken, and the desolate wasteland that lies at its end. The wounds that never heal aren't just physical, they're the fractures in your spirit, the rot in the life you tried to return to. The bear is gone, but the cage it left behind is made of pain and isolation, and there's no key. The silver pouch from Bjorn lies discarded in the dirt, a dull gleam against the forest floor where you threw it. Its weight was an anchor to a world that rejects you, the warband, the farmstead, the very notion of belonging. The woods, though, don't judge. The ancient pines creak and sigh, indifferent to your trembling hands, your fevered skin, the grinding ache in your bones that feels less like injury and more like the slow settling of ruin. Here, the silence isn't heavy with fear. It's vast, enveloping. A different kind of exile. You find a hollow beneath the roots of a lightning, blasted oak, carpeted in centuries of brown needles. It smells of damp earth and decay, familiar, almost comforting. This becomes your den. The bare pelt, retrieved from the byre like a shameful secret, is your only bedding. Its stench, mingling with the loam, is the smell of your truth now. Sleep is a battleground. When it comes, it's not rest, it's a descent. You're back on the Saxon beach, but the sand is hot ash, the sea is blood. The spearman's face isn't a stranger's, it morphs. Your father's missing fingers, your mother's horrified eyes, Bjorn's revulsion. The axe in your hand is the oak stave from training, impossibly heavy. You swing, but it turns to mist. The young sailor behind the barrel screams, but the sound is your own voice, raw and ragged, tearing you awake into the suffocating darkness of the root hollow. Your heart hammers against your ribs like a trapped thing. Sweat, cold and clammy, soaks the thin tunic beneath the pelt. The line between nightmare and the waking forest blurs. Was that a twig snapping, or a Saxon's neck? A rustle in the undergrowth? Or the scrape of Thorgrim's practice sword on your shield? Mainstream fact, Vikings interpreted vivid dreams, recurring nightmares, and sleep disturbances as potent omens or direct messages from the dead. The Norns or Odin himself. Your nights are a relentless screaming omen no seer would dare interpret. Quirky tidbit. Some obscure saga passages describe warriors afflicted by berserksganger, suffering the bear's breath, waking hallucinations of a spectral bear shadowing them, its hot breath felt on their neck. Fringe theorists suggest this could be sleep paralysis combined with cultural expectation. You don't need a theory. You feel it, a presence. Heavy, breathing. Just beyond the ring of faint moonlight filtering through the branches. Watching. Days blur. You forage like an animal. Bitter wild greens. Grubs pried from rotting logs. Stolen eggs from ground-nesting birds eaten raw. Hunger is a constant gnawing companion, but it's a clean ache compared to the rot festering inside your mind. The fever waxes and wanes, leaving you shivering or drenched in sweat. The spear wound on your ribs pulses, a crimson eye weeping infection. You don't tend it. Pain is an anchor, a reminder you're still flesh, not just fractured spirit. The forest becomes a distorted reflection of your inner chaos. Sunlight dappling through leaves looks like spattered blood. The wind's moan sounds like the death rattle of the man on the beach. A startled deer crashing through the brush becomes a shield wall advancing. Historians still argue whether the documented instances of berserkers living as outlaws or hermits were driven by societal rejection, self-imposed exile from guilt, or the terrifying instability of their own fractured minds. Here, in the root hollow, all three strands twist together into an inescapable knot. The rage doesn't come in controlled bursts anymore. It simmers, a low boil beneath the surface, waiting for a spark. Stumbling over a hidden root, falling hard onto your injured shoulder, the flare of agony ignites it. White-hot fury erupts, directionless, consuming. You roar, a sound that startles birds into flight for miles, and lash out at the nearest tree. Fists pound the rough bark until knuckles split and bleed. You kick, you claw, you scream obscenities at the indifferent sky, at Odin, at the seer, at your father's turned back. The frenzy burns itself out quickly, leaving you gasping, slumped against the bloody tree, hands throbbing, the taste of copper in your mouth from biting your tongue. Shame follows, colder and deeper than before. Not for the violence done to a tree, but for the terrifying loss of control, the glimpse into the abyss where nothing remains but blind, self-destructive fury. The bear isn't just a pelt, it's chewing through your mind. One twilight, delirious with fever, you see her, the seer, standing between the trees, bone needles glinting in the last light, her face obscured by shadow. The stone waits, Ulfheathen, her voice whispers. Though her lips don't move, it's inside your skull. Offer your fear, become hollow. Only then can you bear the weight without breaking. You lurch towards her, desperate for an answer, for an end, but your foot catches. You fall face first into the damp needles. When you look up, gasping, she's gone. Only the sighing pines remain. Was it hallucination, memory, or Odin's cruel joke? The message is the same. Annihilation is the only path to peace. The madness isn't just deepening, it's becoming your only landscape. The farm, the raids, the silver, they belong to another life, a story told about someone else. You are the beast in the hollow, listening to the phantom bear breathe, waiting for the next spark that will make you roar and bleed against the uncaring trees. The cage is your own skull, and the lock is broken. The phantom bear's breath fades with the fever dream, leaving only the relentless cold and the sour taste of pine needles in your mouth. Dawn bleeds gray through the skeletal branches, revealing the blood smeared on the tree bark. Your own. Knuckles split, throbbing. Shame curdles, thick and familiar. Survival now is a feral calculus. Hunger gnaws, the infected spear wound burns, and the villager's fear has hardened into something sharper. You find the discarded silver pouch half buried in frost. Its weight feels like a sentence. It marks you as other, as berserker, even more than the unseen scars. You shuffle towards the village edge at twilight, drawn by the smell of wood smoke and baking rye, a siren song for the hollow thing you've become. You need salt, a whetstone, maybe just the sight of a human face that isn't twisted in horror. You keep to the tree line, the bare pelt dragging like a shadow. Near the well, two women drawing water freeze. Their whispered conversation dies. They see you. One drops her bucket with a clatter, water sloshing over frozen mud. They don't scream. They just stare, eyes wide with a terror colder than the fjord, then turn and flee, abandoning the spilled water, their retreat swift and silent. Your presence is a curse, a blight. Mainstream fact. Norse law codes declared outlaws, utlagai, wolves' heads, literally outside the law. Anyone could kill them without penalty. Your exile isn't just social. It's a death warrant, whispered in every averted gaze. Days later, desperation drives you closer. You leave the silver pouch near the smithy door at night, payment for a small iron knife left on a stump. A crude trade. In the morning, the knife is gone. The silver remains. Pushed deliberately into the mud beside the stump. Rejected. The message is clear. Not even your plunder is welcome. Quirky tidbit. Archaeologists find curious, unmarked stones placed at boundaries of some Norse settlements. Fringe theory suggests these were outlaw stones, warning the banished not to cross. Your invisible stone lies everywhere. The forest provides scant refuge. Frost deepens. Your foraging yields less. Frozen roots, bark scrapings. The spear wound weeps a constant, foul-smelling trickle, staining the thin tunic beneath the pelt. The pain is a constant thrum, a counterpoint to the hollow ache in your chest. You try to hunt. A hair bolts at your clumsy, limping approach. A ptarmigan explodes from the undergrowth before you raise your sling. The woods know you too. You are clumsiness. You are pain. You are the stink of decay. The land itself rejects you. Historians still argue whether berserkers typically met violent ends quickly or lingered for years as broken outlaws, their deaths unmarked. The ice forming in your lungs suggests an answer. One moonless night, huddled in the root hollow, teeth chattering, the rage bubbles up again. Not hot, but cold and desperate. Why survive? For this? More pain? More fear? More gnawing emptiness? You fumble for the crude iron knife. The blade gleams dully in the starlight, filtering through the branches. The promise of oblivion is seductive. A final stillness. No more dreams, no more phantom breath on your neck. You press the cold point against the thrumming pulse in your wrist. The pressure bites. A sound, not the wind, not an animal. A low guttural huff. Close. You freeze. The knife tip wavers. Slowly, you turn your head. Two pinpricks of reflected starlight gleam from the deeper darkness beyond the hollow, low to the ground, watching. The phantom bear or a real one, drawn by the scent of infection, weakness, and despair. Modern aside, ever felt truly, utterly alone? Multiply that by the vast frozen emptiness of 9th century Scandinavia, add a rotting bear pelt, a festering wound, and glowing eyes in the dark. That's your baseline now. The eyes don't move. The low huff comes again, a rumble felt in your chest. Fear, primal and clean, surges through the fog of despair. It's not the fear of men or shame or memories. It's the pure, ancient terror of prey. Your hand tightens on the knife, not for suicide now, for survival. The eyes blink. A massive shape shifts in the gloom, a deeper black against the forest night. It takes a single, heavy step towards the hollow. The ground seems to tremble. The choice dissolves. There is only the knife, the wound, the cold, the crushing weight of the pelt, and the living darkness closing in. Annihilation comes, but not the kind you sought. The wilderness offers no clean endings, only teeth and hunger. The path of the outlaw ends not in silver or song, but in the frozen dark, with glowing eyes and the reek of your own decay. The bear, real or imagined, is the only companion left. The knife trembles in your hand, a flimsy toothpick against the mountain of shadow and muscle that steps into the starlight. The real bear. It's enormous, a living avalanche of brown fur, its breath pluming white in the frigid air, carrying the raw scent of predator and pine resin. The phantom eyes were terrifying, but these, deep-set, intelligent, utterly devoid of mercy, freeze your blood. It sniffs the air, nostrils flaring. It smells the old blood crusted on your pelt. It smells the fresh, festering wound on your ribs. It smells your fear, thick and sour. Instinct screams, run, but your body betrays you. Your ruined knee buckles as you scramble back in the root hollow. Pain explodes, blinding white. A guttural whimper escapes you. The bear's head lowers. A low, rumbling growl vibrates the ground beneath you, deeper and more final than Thorgrim's loudest roar. It takes another step, claws scraping rock. This isn't a hunt, it's a claiming. Mainstream fact: brown bears were apex predators in Viking Age Scandinavia, highly territorial, especially in lean winters. Encounters were deadly. Surviving an attack unharmed was attributed to divine luck or strength worthy of saga. Your trembling knife offers neither. The rage comes. Not the cold, focused fury of the shield wall, but a desperate, shrieking panic. You lunge, not away, but towards the impossible bulk, iron knife flashing. It's suicide. It's defiance. The bear swats. Not a bite, not a maul, a contemptuous, dismissive cuff, like brushing off a fly. Its paw, wider than your face, connects with your chest. The impact is world-ending. Air explodes from your lungs. Ribs shriek in protest. You're lifted, weightless for a sickening heartbeat, then slammed back into the root wall. Darkness swallows your vision. Agony radiates from your chest, a supernova blotting out thought, sound, everything except the crushing certainty of death. The knife is gone, lost in the dark. You taste blood, your own, hot and metallic. You can't breathe, can't move. Sand, scream. The bear sniffs again, looming over you. Its hot breath, reeking of raw meat and forest, washes over your face. It nudges your limp leg with its muzzle, a casual assessment. Prey. Finished. It could crush your skull with one bite, tear you open with a lazy swipe, but the stink of the bear pelt you wear, the deeper stench of infection and human despair, it hesitates. Perhaps you smell wrong. Diseased. Not worth the effort. With a final, dismissive huff that rattles your bones, it turns. Massive shoulders ripple in the gloom. It ambles away, melting back into the trees as silently as it came, leaving only the drumbeat of your shattered heart and the blinding, white-hot pain. You lie paralyzed, gasping like a landed fish, each shallow breath a knife in your chest. Dawn finds you still there, curled fetally in the frozen hollow. The cold has seeped into your marrow, a blessing numbing the edges of the agony. Your chest is a constellation of bruises blooming purple-black beneath a tattered tunic. At least 2 ribs scream broken with every twitch. The spear-wound throbs in sympathy. You are a broken toy discarded by a careless god. The bear didn't kill you. It simply showed you how utterly inconsequential you are. Movement is torture. Crawling out of the hollow takes an eternity, each inch paid in whimpers and cold sweat. You find the iron knife nearby, miraculously unharmed. You clutch it like a talisman. Survival is no longer a choice. It's a grim, mechanical reflex. You crawl towards a frozen stream, breaking the ice with the knife hilt, sucking down the biting cold water. You scrape lichen from rocks with shaking fingers, stuffing it into your mouth. It tastes like dust and defeat. Days bleed into one another, a gray wash of pain, cold, and semi-consciousness. You drift. The line between waking and nightmare dissolves. You see the seer smearing blood on the sacred stone. You feel Thorgrim's oak stave grinding into your back. You hear the Saxon spearman's wet gasp. The phantom bear breathes down your neck, its presence a constant icy dread even in delirium. You are dissolving piece by piece. Quirky tidbit. Archaeologists occasionally find isolated Viking-era burials far from settlements, sometimes with weapons but little else. Fringe theories whisper these could be berserkers, buried alone either by fearful communities or by their own hand, their final rest as solitary as their lives. Your frozen hollow feels like a grave waiting for its occupant. The crunch of snow. Heavy, purposeful. Not a bear, not an animal. You freeze, knife clutched tight, peering through the screen of bare branches. Bjorn, he stands at the edge of the clearing where your rude hollow lies, scanning the trees. He looks uneasy, guarded. He carries a small bundle wrapped in rough cloth. He doesn't call out, he just waits, his breath fogging, hand resting on his axe pommel. Hope, treacherous and weak, flickers. Has he come to bring you back? Medicine? Food? You try to rise, to call out. A broken rib grinds. A whimper escapes, louder than intended. Bjorn's head snaps towards the sound. His eyes lock onto your hiding place. He sees the matted fur, the gaunt, fever-bright face, the animal fear in your eyes. His expression hardens. Not pity, resignation. He doesn't approach. He simply places the bundle on the snow well away from the trees. Thorgrim sent it, he says, his voice flat, carrying in the stillness. Said you might need it. One last time. He pauses, his gaze sweeping over the miserable scene. The hollow, the frozen vomit nearby, the desperate, broken figure huddled like a wounded animal. He shakes his head, a minute gesture of finality. Don't come near the farms again, he adds, his voice low but carrying the weight of law. They won't be as patient as the bear was. He turns and walks away, his footsteps crunching steadily back towards the world of smoke and belonging. You watch him go until the trees swallow him. The silence rushes back, louder than before. You crawl towards the bundle. Inside, a chunk of hard, dark rye bread. A small wedge of rancid cheese. A strip of dried, tough meat. and a small clay pot of the seer's foul-smelling salve. It's not aid, it's severance pay. A final offering to the dangerous ghost they've banished to the woods. Thorgrim's practicality, Bjorn's warning. The message is clear. Live if you can, die if you must, but do it out here, alone. You clutch the food, the salve, no warmth, no comfort. Only the crushing weight of the exile made absolute. The bear showed you your weakness. Bjorn showed you your place. The only thing left to break is the final thread holding you to the world. The cold isn't just in the air anymore. It's in the marrow of your bones, in the hollow where your heart used to beat. Winter isn't coming. Winter is here, and it's permanent. The bread is stone in your mouth. The cheese tastes of despair. The salve's rancid stink mixes with the ever-present decay of the pelt and the metallic tang of the wound on your ribs. Bjorn's visit wasn't mercy. It was a tombstone. Laid. You are officially carrion, waiting for the cold or the creatures to finish the job. The broken ribs are a cage of fire around your lungs. Every shallow breath is a ragged gasp scraping against splintered bone. The festering spear wound pulses, a second, corrupted heart beating beneath your skin. Movement is impossible. Even crawling back to the root hollow is a journey measured in whimpers and blinding agony. The forest watches, indifferent. The phantom bear's breath is your only company, a constant icy whisper on your neck. Mainstream fact: frostbite and gangrene were common, horrific killers in Norse winters. Without fire, clean dressings, or shelter, infection was a death sentence slower than a blade, but just as sure. Your sentence is being carried out. Days blur into a haze of pain and cold. Hunger fades, replaced by a hollow numbness. Thirst is a constant, desperate companion. You suck on filthy snow, the chills sending fresh spasms through your shattered chest. Sleep isn't rest. It's a plunge into fevered chaos. Faces swirl. The Saxon spearman, his neck gaping. The seer, her eyes rolling back. Thorgrim, laughing as you break. Your mother, turning away. You wake screaming soundlessly, the bare pelt soaked with icy sweat. The line between dream and waking thins. Is that raven perched on the branch really there? Or is it Hugin, Odin's thought, come to witness your end? Quirky tidbit. Norse folklore spoke of the hammer, a soul's outer shape that could wander in dreams or sickness. A lost, injured hammer explained madness and wasting. Your spirit feels like it's wandering frozen wastes, unable to find its way back to your ruined body. You lose time. Hours? Days? The weak sun tracks across the gray sky, meaningless. You find yourself muttering, to the trees, to the raven, to the phantom bear. Names slip away. Your father's face blurs. The farmstead's layout dissolves into fog. Only the pain remains, a terrible anchor. You try to smear the seer's salve on the weeping wound. Your hand shakes violently. The clay pot slips, shattering on a frozen root. The last foul comfort spills into the snow. Lost, a sob rattles your broken ribs. Historians still argue whether the documented instances of berserkers found frozen or wasted in the wild were victims of their injuries, the elements, or a final, deliberate walk into the cold. Skjalfsmorth, by exposure, a Viking's quietus. Does the reason matter when the snow feels like a welcoming shroud? The cold deepens, a living thing creeping into your core. The shivering stops. A strange, deceptive warmth spreads through your limbs. You know this is bad. Old Man Eagle spoke of it before the frost took his toes. The final lie your body tells. You watch detachedly as your fingers turn waxy, pale. The pain in your ribs, the throb of the wound, they fade. Distant echoes. The phantom bear's breath is warm now, almost comforting. The raven cocks its head. The world softens at the edges, blurring into gentle gray. The weight of the bear pelt, it's lifting. The crushing isolation, it's dissolving. There's only the soft sigh of the wind in the pines, the gentle embrace of the cold, and the profound echoing silence. The grindstone stops. The cage door opens, not into Valhalla's roar, but into the vast, quiet snow. The struggle is over. The frost claims its victory, wrapping the broken weapon in its final frozen peace. The deceptive warmth spreads like stolen mead through your veins. The crushing agony of broken ribs, the insistent throb of the festering wound, they recede, muffled under a thick blanket of unnatural calm. Your waxy fingers lie motionless in the snow. You watch a single snowflake drift down, land on your numb knuckle, and refuse to melt. The silence isn't empty anymore. It hums with a low, resonant frequency, like the deep thrum of a plucked bowstring vibrating through the frozen earth. The phantom bear's breath is no longer icy dread on your neck. It's the rhythm of the world itself, in and out, steady and vast. The raven on the branch cocks its head. Its beady eye holds not judgment, but ancient, indifferent knowledge. Time unravels. You are no longer in the root hollow. You are standing on a vast frozen plain beneath a sky bruised purple and green with the swirling, silent dance of the northern lights. The air crackles with cold, so intense it feels pure, clean. Before you stretches a bridge made not of wood or stone but of shimmering ice, arching over a bottomless chasm filled with swirling mist. Jjalabru, the echoing bridge. Sagas whisper of it. The path to Helheim, the realm of those who didn't die sword in hand. The wind sighs, carrying faint, discordant echoes. The clash of distant steel, a woman's sob, the gurgle of a dying man. Your men, your victims, your failures. Mainstream fact. Norse beliefs about the afterlife were complex and context-dependent. Valhalla, Odin's hall, awaited warriors who died bravely in battle, chosen by the Valkyries. Helheim, ruled by the goddess Hel, daughter of Loki, was often depicted as a cold, misty place for those who died of sickness, old age, or dishonor. Your frozen solitude ticks none of Valhalla's boxes. The icy bridge confirms your destination. A figure materializes at the far end of the bridge, tall, cloaked in shadows that writhe like living smoke, face obscured. Only one eye gleams with cold blue fire. Othin, the Fury Giver, the chooser of the slain. He doesn't speak. He simply extends a skeletal hand, palm up, towards you. Not in welcome, in demand. Where is the gift I bestowed? Where is the glorious fury? The weight of the rotting bear pelt feels heavier than ever, a suffocating failure draped over your spirit. You have nothing to show him but broken bones, a festered wound, and the echoing terror of your final, cowardly crawl. The Valkyries didn't come. Hell's Bridge did. Shame, colder than the ice beneath your feet, washes over your fading spirit. You took the god's poison, wore his beast's skin, spilled blood in his name, and ended up a forgotten, frozen stain on the forest floor. His single burning eye holds only infinite disappointment. He lowers his hand, turns away. You are dismissed, unworthy even of hell's attention. The ultimate rejection. The vision shatters. You're back in the hollow. The cold is no longer deceptive. It's absolute, a final embrace. The raven has flown, the phantom breath is gone, only the vast humming silence remains. The struggle is truly over. The last ember of consciousness flickers, not with fear or regret, but with a profound, weary relief. The grinding wheel stops. The cage dissolves. There is only the quiet snow, the sighing pines, and the endless, welcoming dark. The frost completes its work, wrapping the shattered vessel of rage and regret in its final, silent shroud. History's monster becomes winter's patient. Centuries melt like spring snow. The frozen hollow, the shattered bones, the decaying bare pelt, all dissolve into the hungry earth, leaving only whispers in the soil and the slow dance of tree roots. The boy, the warrior, the broken outlaw, gone. But the story survives. It hardens, smooths, transforms. Your desperate, agonized existence is forged into legend in the fires of skalds' imaginations and the fervent whispers of monks recording heathen horrors. Your name is lost, your face is forgotten, but the bear remains. Not the lice-ridden stinking weight that broke your back and spirit, but a symbol, a terrifying icon of primal fury. Skalds sing of berserkers, men who fought like raging beasts, immune to fire and iron, biting shields in their God-given madness. They speak of Ulfhednir, cloaked in wolfskins, howling like the northern gales as they tore through shield walls. Your painful initiation becomes a mystic ritual. The seer's poisonous brew becomes Odin's sacred mead. The debilitating, soul-crushing crash after the frenzy becomes a swift journey to Valhalla's feasting tables. Your frozen, lonely death becomes a glorious last stand against impossible odds. The truth, the hunger, the pain, the isolation, the madness, the pathetic end is buried deeper than your bones. Mainstream fact, our modern understanding of Vikings, especially specialized warriors like berserkers, is heavily filtered through later medieval writings, like the Icelandic sagas compiled centuries after the Viking Age, and Christian chroniclers who often exaggerated their brutality and otherness for political, religious reasons. The messy, tragic reality is often sacrificed for dramatic effect. Quirky tidbit, some Victorian-era historians, captivated by the romanticized saga versions, seriously proposed berserkers might have been sufferers of clinical lycanthropy or inherited Nordic battle madness, framing it as a biological trait rather than a complex ritual and social phenomenon. Imagine a 19th century doctor diagnosing your frozen corpse. Cause of death, excessive Nordicness. The image solidifies, the roaring, invincible beast man. It adorns lurid book covers. It fuels Hollywood fantasies. Men bellowing, eyes rolling, muscles bulging, charging mindlessly through hails of arrows unscathed. Video game characters activate Berserker Rage for temporary God mode. Your suffering is repackaged as power fantasy. The weight of the pelt, the microconcussions, the drug-induced hallucinations, the crushing social rejection, the festering wounds, erased. The inconvenient truths vanish like breath on a winter wind. Historians still argue whether the Berserksganger was a real, observable phenomenon with specific physiological triggers, or a literary trope and cultural construct built on exaggerated accounts of battlefield ferocity and ritual posturing. Your forgotten bones in the frozen hollow tilt the scales towards tragedy, not trope. The legend grows, untethered from the man who lived it. It becomes a metaphor for uncontrolled anger, a label for sports fans screaming at referees, a brand name for energy drinks promising explosive vitality. The word berserk enters languages far removed from frozen fjords, stripped of its bloody, complex roots. It signifies chaos, not cost. The profound price paid. The hollowing of a human soul, the slow death in the unforgiving cold, is reduced to a synonym for really angry. The monster they created in life becomes the caricature they remember. The broken man vanishes. Only the myth endures, shiny, simple, and utterly divorced from the agonizing truth of the frozen hollow and the desperate failed grasp for meaning that ended there. The story survives. The human being is consumed by it. The myth of the unstoppable fury persists, echoing down the centuries. Yet, quietly, meticulously, fragments of a different truth are unearthed, not by skalds, but by trowels and brushes in the quiet corners of museums and university labs. A skeleton is found in a shallow grave far from any known settlement, buried beneath a lightning-struck oak. The bones tell a brutal story. Multiple healed fractures ribs, forearm, collarbone, severe spinal degeneration, advanced arthritis gnawing at the joints, teeth ground down to stubs from coarse grit in bread. Embedded in the pelvis, the rusted tip of an arrowhead, a wound survived, but barely. This wasn't a glorious hero. This was a body broken by relentless hardship, violence, and likely chronic pain long before death. Beside the bones, a few curious items. A small, smooth stone worn by touch, a crude iron knife, and fragments of something dark and organic, perhaps decayed fur. Mainstream fact, bioarchaeology, studying human remains, provides invaluable insights into Viking life. Patterns of injury, disease, diet, and physical stress revealed through bones and teeth paint a far grimmer picture of warrior life than sagas suggest, one dominated by trauma, infection, and premature aging. Another grave near a coastal trading post. The occupant, buried with an axe and shield, shows clear evidence of multiple trepanations. Holes drilled into the skull. Healed edges suggest survival, perhaps multiple times. Was this an attempt to relieve pressure from battle injuries? Or perhaps to release evil spirits? Or madness thought to plague a warrior whose mind fractured under the strain? Quirky tidbit. Analysis of soil chemistry around certain non-standard Viking burials sometimes reveals elevated levels of specific psychoactive plant compounds, like henbane or ergot, lending tentative physical support to the idea of ritual intoxication, though whether it was common practice for berserkers remains fiercely debated. Historians still argue whether these fragmented, ambiguous finds represent the forgotten berserkers, the broken tools discarded by society, or simply unlucky warriors and outliers. The lack of definitive berserker graves is a source of constant academic friction. Yet the bones whisper of suffering that transcends labels. The skeletal arthritis mirrors the grinding agony you felt hauling firewood under Thorgrim's gaze. The healed fractures echo the crunch of the bear's paw on your chest. The trepan skull whispers of minds shattered not just by blades, but by the unbearable weight of what they were forced to become and do. The legend speaks of invincibility. The bones speak of profound vulnerability. The saga versus roar of God-touched fury. The soil samples hint at toxic brews and desperate rituals. The myth demands awe. The fragments suggest tragedy. The glorious monster of the stories could never have endured the life etched into these unearthed remains. The chronic pain, the infections, the social ostracization, the slow decay of mind and body. The idealized berserker is a phantom. The broken bones are the reality. They belong to men who walked a path paved with promised power, only to find it led inevitably to the frozen hollow, the forgotten grave, and the slow erasure of their humanity by time and tale. The fragments don't disprove the rage, they reveal its unbearable cost. The myth endures pristine. The truth lies in pieces, slowly being reassembled, whispering a counterpoint of pain and loss beneath the roar of legend. The roar of battle fades completely now, replaced by the soft rhythmic sigh of waves on a distant imagined shore. The phantom bear's breath dissolves into the gentle hum of the world at rest. The icy grip of the hollow loosens its hold, replaced by a profound, enveloping warmth, like sinking into sun-baked sand after a plunge into a cold fjord. The weight, the bare pelt, the broken bones, the crushing guilt, it all evaporates, leaving you lighter than air. You drift, not through the frozen forest, but through a vast, velvety darkness, deeper and more comforting than any sleep you've ever known. Stars, countless and impossibly bright, swirl slowly above, not the harsh pinpricks of the Norse winter sky, but soft, luminous points casting a gentle, silver glow. There are no bridges to hell, no one-eyed gods demanding answers, only peace. Deep, absolute, and silent. Memories surface, not as sharp, painful shards, but as soft, faded watercolors. The smell of your mother's rye bread baking in the hearth oven, warm and yeasty. The feel of cool earth under your bare feet on a rare summer day. The sound of your little sister's laughter as she chased a butterfly through the meadow flowers. The rough, calloused grip of your father's hand on your shoulder, just once, when you were very small, before the hungry winters hardened him. These weren't stolen by the bear or the axe. They were buried beneath the weight of survival. Now they float free, precious, and unharmed. The desperate fury, the gnawing hunger, the bone-deep cold, the crushing isolation, they recede, not forgotten, but finally, blessedly over. They belong to a story that has reached its end. The struggle is done. The wheel has stopped grinding. There is no more pain to endure, no more fear to face, no more monsters, internal or external, to fight. You are adrift in a boundless sea of tranquility. Time has no meaning here. There is only the gentle rhythm of existence. A sense of being held, safe, and finally, completely at rest. The frantic drumming of your heart slows, synchronizing with the slow pulse of the universe itself. Every ragged breath you ever drew, every gasp of icy air, every choked sob is smoothed into one long, silent, effortless exhalation. Let it go. Let it all go. The light from the swirling stars above softens further, bathing everything in a soothing twilight glow. It feels like the gentle dimming of lamps in a quiet room. The vastness around you isn't empty. It's full of a profound, welcoming stillness. It's the deep hush of the world holding its breath, the quiet after snowfall, the peaceful silence at the very center of a storm. This is the rest you fought for, bled for, and never found in life. It's not Valhalla's clamor. It's deeper. It's Keter. It's the profound peace of the journey's end, the weight lifted, the battle finished. No more striving, no more enduring, only being. Rest now. Just rest. The gentle drift slows. The velvety darkness feels less like an expanse and more like a soft embrace, close and comforting as a favorite blanket pulled high on a cold night. The swirling starlight above dims to a soft ambient glow, like moonlight filtered through thick clouds. The distant sigh of waves fades into the quiet hum of the universe at rest, a deep, resonant sound felt more in the bones than heard by the ears, steady and calming as a mother's heartbeat felt by a child held close. Breathing becomes unnecessary. Effort vanishes. You simply are suspended in a state of profound, wordless serenity. The concept of Viking, Berserker, farm boy, they lose all meaning, dissolving like sugar in warm water. They were roles played, burdens carried, stories told. Here, there is no role, no burden, only the essence of being stripped bare and finally free. The last faint echoes of the saga, the clash of steel, the bear's roar, the seer's chant, melt away completely, replaced by a silence so deep and complete, it feels like its own kind of music. It's the silence of snow falling on deep forest firs, the silence of a mountain lake at dawn, the silence within the heart of a perfectly still stone. It cradles you. A profound sense of release washes through you, gentle as a warm current. Every muscle, every fiber, every nerve ending that ever held tension. From the grind of Thorgrim's drills to the instinctive flinch before the bear's paw, softens, unclenches, melts. It's a letting go so complete it feels like floating, dissolving, becoming part of the peaceful darkness itself. The cold that once bit to the bone is replaced by a gentle internal warmth radiating from your core like the last embers of a banked fire, comforting and safe. The darkness is not empty. It's full of a soft, welcoming presence. It feels like coming home after an impossibly long, arduous journey. Not to the drafty longhouse with its turned backs, but to a place of absolute acceptance and stillness. The anxieties, the regrets, the sharp edges of memory, they soften, blur, and drift away like smoke on a breeze. There is nothing to fix, nothing to fight, nothing to fear. Only this perfect, peaceful stillness. Focus on the gentle hum. Let it fill your awareness, a soothing vibration that resonates through your entire being. Feel the weightlessness, the utter absence of struggle. Feel the warmth spreading, easing away any last, lingering phantom sensation of cold or pain. Feel the profound quiet, deep and restorative, seeping into every corner of your spirit. The darkness deepens, becoming softer, warmer, more enveloping. The gentle hum fades to a whisper, then to the faintest suggestion of sound, like the memory of a lullaby. The boundaries of self gently soften, blurring into the encompassing peace. There is no you separate from the stillness anymore. Only peace, deep, boundless, and eternal. Rest. And so the fury fades, not with a final roar, but with a sigh lost in the whispering pines. The weight of the bear pelt, the grind of the training yard, the sting of the cold steel, the ache of the frozen bones, they all dissolve, leaving only the profound, echoing quiet of the deep forest after snowfall. The struggle, fierce and consuming as it was, finds its end not in the clash of shields, but in the gentle embrace of stillness. The legend might speak of gods and monsters, of unquenchable rage and glorious death. But beneath the myth, woven into the forgotten soil and whispered in the silent spaces between the stars, lies a simpler, quieter truth. The story of a human spirit navigating an impossible path, enduring unimaginable hardship, and finally, finding rest. The icy wind that once stole your breath now feels like a distant memory, replaced by the soft, rhythmic ebb and flow of your own peaceful breathing. The tension that once gripped every muscle, every thought, melts away like frost under a gentle sun. Let the images soften, blur, and fade. The blood-stained snow, the fearful eyes, the decaying fur. Let them drift away on the quiet current of this deep, restoring stillness. Feel the solid ground beneath you, not the frozen earth of the hollow, but the comforting, supportive presence of the here and now. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your chest, a peaceful tide washing away the last grains of sand from a long and arduous journey. The darkness behind your eyelids is warm, soft, and safe, a welcoming harbor after the storm. All is quiet, all is calm, all is still. Breathe in, slow, deep, effortless. Breathe out, releasing, softening, letting go. Breathe in, peace. Breathe out, rest. Deeper now, drifting, safe, held. The journey is done. The saga is over. Rest.